Hello dear soulmates, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time of seeing my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for watching. So in this tutorial, we're going to be learning how to make this conical corset that has a stylish cup design. If you're interested in learning this, please join me while we get started. Okay, so on your pattern paper, you're just going to go ahead and draw a starting line at the top. So as you can see, I've gone ahead to mark the starting line. I've also marked the bust points, the under bust, the waist, and the hip. So these lines I drew across are going to represent those lines. I'm going to label them the bust, under bust, waist, and hip so that we can understand what you are doing. So at this point now, we are going to come to the upper part, which is the starting line or the shoulder line, and we're going to mark the shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 7 inches. 14 divided by 2. Okay, so I came down from that point by 1 inch, and I'm marking 3 inches from the center front because this is the front pattern, which is going to serve as a neck depth, although we are not going to be using it, but I'm just showing you for tutorial sake. So as you can see, I connected it to that 1 inch I came down below the shoulder point for the shoulder slope, and I'm going to mark my armhole depth of 7 inches, which I got by dividing my bust circumference by 6 and adding 1.5. So I also marked the shoulder measurement divided by 2 on that same line where I marked the armhole depth to ensure that they are aligned. Then I went ahead to connect it together. I also draw the straight line at that point and labeled it my chest line. Okay, so now that we have done this, we're going to get our armhole curve. So I marked the bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line, and I'm also taking the midpoint of this armhole depth we marked earlier. From that midpoint, I'm going to come in by half of an inch, and I'm going to be connecting these 3 points together from the slope to the half of an inch, and from that point to the point where I mark my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. And doing this, you're going to get our armhole curve. Okay, so this armhole is just going to be needed for the corset drafting. Okay, so now that we have done this part, if you are working with maybe a design that have a yoke, you can just mark your neck design by coming down by 3 inches for the neck depth and connecting it to the neck width. As you can see, I also went ahead to connect it with a curve. So but we are not going to be using that, so let's leave that aside. So on the bust line, I mark my bust span measurement, which is 3.5 inches. So it's just a nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, and that was how I got my 3.5, which I marked from the bust point to the hip line, and I'm connecting it with a straight line. Okay, so we are going to be using this line to serve as a guide. Please ensure that you connect your lines well so that it can be straight, not like mine that there was a mistake while doing it. So from the under bust point, you are going to be marking 1 inch on both sides of that line, and I'm going to repeat it on the hip line. So this is a way of tightening our under bust. Okay, so after marking it, I'm going to connect it to the hip line, that is the under bust to the hip line, where I marked 1 inch on both sides, as you can see. So after connecting them together like this, I'm going to get the curve here. So I'm going to come down from the bust point by 0.75. You can come down by 1 inch if you're a bit busty, but I'm going to be coming down by 0.75, and I'm going to connect that point where I mark 0.75 to meet this under bust point where I mark 1 inch on both sides with my curve, as you can see. So just go ahead and do this. If you are plus size, you can use 1.5 inches on both sides instead of 1 inch, or 1.25. Okay, if you try them, you know the one that works perfect for you, but I think 1.5 should be better. Then I came to the shoulder slope and divided by 2. After marking it, I connected it to meet the bust point, as you can see, where I marked the bust span measurement. So after connecting that, it's going to help us to get our dart. That is for the over bust tightening. I came up from the chest line by 1 inch and drew a straight line. This is going to serve as a guide. It's going to be our over bust point. So from that point, I mark 0.75 on both sides, which I'm going to use to create a dart at that point. I connected it to meet this bust point, as you can see. So after connecting them together like this, you're going to be using that as our over bust tightening. So I just measured what I have on that one side and also place it on the other side, because most times when we do this, one is always shorter than the other, and that's exactly what happened. So I went ahead to mark it there and connect it together so that they can be equal when we are joining it. Now that I've done this, what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to impute the body measurements. Okay, So for this part where I have this little dart allowance on the chest line, I'm just going to add what I have there. I think it's about 0.75. I just went ahead to add it to the point where I marked my bust circumference divided by 4. So dividing the under bust circumference divided by 4, I marked it there and added that 2 inches, that allowance that is there. I did the same thing for the waist and the same thing for the hip. So mind you, I'm working with a bust circumference of 34 inches, under bust circumference of 28 inches, waist circumference of 26, and the hip measurement is, the hip circumference is 36 inches. So after doing all this together, I went ahead to connect them with my ruler. Okay, as you can see, it's only the area where I have the waist to hip that is curvy. The other parts are a bit straight. So now after connecting them together, you can now determine how we get our cup. Okay, so I'm taking our bust dart measurements because the back and front is not equal. The shoulder to the waist in the front is 16 and shoulder to the waist at the back is 14.5, which give us a difference of 1.5. That is the 1.5 I came down from the bust line and connected it to make the bust point. That is the bust span point we marked earlier. So now I also marked half of an inch from the center front on the bust line. As you can see, that's going to serve as our bust bridge. Okay, so from that point I'm going to connect it with a slight curve to meet this first dart line that we have for our over bust tightening, as you can see. So this is how we are going to get our cup. Okay, this cup is going to be a stylish cup, but it's going to be a two-piece cup. So from that same bust bridge point, I marked to meet the under bust. So I would advise that you use the fuller part of your curve, because most times when people do this, the cup is not actually curvy as it should be. So use the fuller part of your curve and place your curve properly to get the curve well. It's very important. So after getting the curve from those sides, I went ahead to use my marker to make it visible, and I've connected them together. So this half of an inch that I marked earlier is going to serve as the bust bridge, okay, where the cup is going to be sitting on from that point. So now I'm going to get this other side. For me to get it, I have to close the bust dart. So that's why I'm cutting the paper, so that I can be able to close the bust dart without issues. I'll be able to close it with ease. So now I'm just going to take my time to fold that part, as you can see. When doing this, please take your time to do it. Don't have to be in a hurry, so that it will come out well, it will come out very neat. So I'll just close it, and when you close it, you'll notice that there is a shortage, or the lines are not going to align. So I'm connecting them from the chest line to the underbust with my ruler to have that straight line there, as you can see. So after doing this, I'm now going to get this design for this side. Remember that we have a stylish design at that cup area. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take my ruler, my tape measure, and I'm going to come up by 1 inch from that over bust line we drew earlier, as you can see, and I'm just marked it there. So I'm going to use this, I'm going to extend this other dart line from this side to like 1 inch, to that 1 inch point. So I noticed that okay, it's not straight, and I'm trying to make it straight. So you can actually just use your free hand to make it straight, or if you can use your ruler to achieve it, it's fine. So I'll just connect it to the armhole area, but I came down a little bit from the armhole because I do not want it to be directly on the armhole. If you're okay with it on the armhole, it's fine. I just want it to sit a little bit below the armhole, and then still went ahead to connect it to the chest line, as you can see. So as you can see, I've gone ahead to connect that point. Now I'm going to work on this other part. So I'm just going to place my tape from the first side of the cup and still mark that 7 inches, which is serving as my nipple to nipple measurement, and I added 1 inch, which is going to be 8 inches, and I noticed that it's still aligning on the armhole, the point of the armhole that I marked earlier, where I marked the bust circumference divided by 4. So I was trying to cross check that, and yes, it was okay. So I just placed my curve, connect it to that point there, and I'm going to connect it to the under bust with a curve. So it's very important that you make this part of your cup to be very curvy, because this part of the cup, this part of the bust is fuller. Okay, so you don't want to make your cup look flat. You don't want to make your cup looking flat and not able to accommodate the bust very well. So you have to be able to place your cup properly to get a good result. Okay, so now after that, we're going to get the hem design. Okay, so for us to get that conical effect, I'm just going to mark 2 inches after the hip line, as you can see, and I'm going to connect the waist to that 2 inches like this. This is going to help us get that conical effect. So this is not mandatory. It's not mandatory that you use 2 inches. You can use 2.5, 3 inches, whatever you want to do. If you notice, I marked 2 inches above that line. As you can see, I'm trying to get that design there, but I realized that that 2 inches is quite high, so I decided to use 1 inch instead of 2 inches, which I still later marked. And I'm using my free hand to try and get that curve that it's having at the hem area, as you can see. So you can actually work on it whichever way you want. You can decide to come out a little bit by 1 inch, as you can see, and still connect it like that, or you still go ahead and connect it to where you have that line. Whichever way you want to do it, just use what works for you, what you're okay with. So after that, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. So if you're finding this tutorial very helpful, please do not hesitate to give us a thumbs up, share this video, leave a comment if you have a question or anything you have to say, and also subscribe to our channel. Mind you, our corset class is ongoing, and if you are interested in learning how to draft, cut, make your homemade bra cup, and also go ahead the sewing process of your corset, please do not hesitate to reach out to us from this number that is displayed on the screen. Okay, so our class is ongoing and it's very detailed. So for also beginner class, if you're a beginner, you want to also learn fashion, we also have a class that is ongoing at the moment. Just send us a message on the number displayed on the screen. Okay, so we are going to start the back pattern now. As you can see, I'm going ahead to mark the lines from the starting point to the chest line, the bust point, waist and hip. So mind you, the shoulder to waist here is 14.5, like I said earlier. Okay, so our waist to hip is 8 inches, just like I did for the front part. So now what we are going to do now is that we are going to I'm just showing you how to mark your neck measurement for those that will be using it maybe for a yoke or any kind of design. I came down by 1 inch from the center back and I connected it to that 3 inches width. Okay, so now we're going to mark the bust span from the chest line down to the hip, and remember we use the bust span of 3.5. so after marking it, I went ahead to connect it with a straight line. Okay, so we're going to mark the dart intake. I'm going to be using a dart of 0.75. You can use 0.5 inches, it's still going to be fine. Okay, so I came down by 1 inch from the chest line, but I decided to just go ahead and use the chest line directly. So below the waist, you can mark 4 inches or 5 inches and connect them together. It's still okay, it's going to work. So if you're a plus size, you can use 1 inch for your dart instead of 0.75, or you can still use 0.75. It's still going to be fine. Okay, so this is totally dependent on what you want. If you are not new in corset making or bustiers, you should be familiar with this. Okay, so now we're going to be imputing the body measurements, dividing them by 4. So just go ahead, put your body circumference divided by 4 there and add the dart. So for the waist, I added the dart allowance that I have there, and then I'm going to go ahead and connect them with my curve. Okay, so the waist to the hip, I'll connect it with a curve, and the other part is going to be straight. So if you're finding this tutorial helpful, please do not hesitate to give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel so you can get more videos, you can get notifications when we upload new videos. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do for this back is to get this hem design. Like the conical effect, I'm going to still add 2 inches there, as you can see, and I'm going to connect it together. Okay, so the back is obviously going to be a little bit different from the front because of the dart intake and the difference in the tightening of the over bust at the front and here. So it's going to be a little bit different, but that's why I'm going to take this paper so that I can use it to get the side accurately. So if you notice that the dart is not exactly equal because we took a dart of 2 inches from there, which we added, which gave the hip area a more defined shape than the back. So what you need to do is just take the front piece, place it from the waist to the hip, and just trace the side. Okay, just go ahead and trace the side. What you need here is the side. So once you have gone ahead to trace it, you can now use your hand or your free hand or your curve, whichever one works for you, to align it properly, just like you can see me doing, so that it's going to come out looking well. So I'm going to start from the chest line because that's where we are going to be cutting it from. So I marked 1.5 for 2 inches. I'm just marking 1.5 all through. So you can use 2 inches, you can use 1.5, depending on how open you want it to be. Okay, so what I just did, I just connected the hip to the waist, and then I used 2 inches for the upper part, just to make that part to be a bit open. This is totally optional, do whatever works for you. And after that, I'm going to just indicate the area where I'll be having the lacing, so that when we are cutting it, we don't get confused. Please note that from the center back or the center front, you can come up by 2 inches or 2.5 inches, you know, just to help give that part a little bit of ease, so that you can walk well or sit well. That is totally dependent on what you want or how you want it to be. Okay, you don't have to leave it to be at the hip area, just to give your customer or yourself a bit of comfort. So I've already gone ahead to cut it out, and I'll label it center back and center front. Okay, this piece should be cut into two, both for the front and the back. So I'm going to bring the front, and I'm going to join the cups together with my tape, so just for us to have a view of what it looks like. So at this point, you're actually done with this tutorial. If you find it helpful, do not hesitate to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. So we'll see you guys in our next video. Thank you for watching.